Hello, everybody. I am joining the conference from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I just wanted to acknowledge traditional owners and that sovereignty was never ceded. I was asked today to talk about AI and specifically some of the dangers, and so I'll be focusing on a few key things that span AI in the military and warfare, as well as civil and society domains. And I do want to, though, at the outset, emphasize that AI does bring real opportunities and positive applications that can be uses of technology that are helpful or beneficial or even somewhat, I guess, benign, but that there are also risks, and especially in certain domains that we really need to be alert to. I also come to this not with a technical background in data science or software engineering. My background is in international relations and working on disarmament issues. And so it was doing this work where concern was emerging among experts and civil society and the international community more broadly about the realities of AI being incorporated into weapons and development towards autonomous weapons. So autonomous weapons that use sensor data, things such as facial recognition or heat imprint, to determine what or who to attack, cross a fundamental moral red line. And they also introduce security, ethical, humanitarian, and legal risks and distinct risks. And it's for this reason that the majority of states, the Secretary General, International Committee of the Red Cross, AI experts, and global civil society have called for new law to address autonomous weapons. So some sort of new treaty, for instance, that would contain specific prohibitions as well as obligations that address autonomous weapons. Now, UN talks have been carried out to date primarily within the UN at the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, the CCW, and this year the dedicated group that deal with autonomous weapons are tasked to agree on elements of a potential instrument, and that's kind of part of the current mandate. But there is a strong call that this really needs to lead to urgent negotiation of a new treaty. Australia, though, has been part of only a small handful of countries that are resisting the notion of new international law and having specific international law surrounding autonomous weapons. Now, these countries include Russia, Israel, India, the US, UK, Australia. And so at the same time as well, Australia is also advancing autonomous capabilities within defence. So there's some really large projects that some people might be aware of that include GhostBat, the autonomous aircraft, which is developed by Boeing, and also on the autonomous submarine Ghost Shark, which is a contract by Anduril. And now we've heard a little bit about AUKUS and the mention of Pillar II and capability sharing. As part of AUKUS, there's been joint military sort of exercises or trials. The maritime big play was a major one of these series that was announced, and there was an autonomous sort of focus on maritime capabilities hosted by Australia, the exercise Autonomous Warrior. And this included Ghost Shark and other capabilities that were in a joint trial with the US and the UK under that auspice of AUKUS. Now, there really needs to be clear limits to autonomy in weapons and how it's used, and particularly around autonomy and targeting and those sort of key functions. And really, Australia should be welcoming new law that would delineate what is not acceptable in terms of autonomous weapons. Increasing autonomy in weapons is sort of just the tip of the iceberg in terms of AI being used in warfare, as well as, I guess, elements that cross over to other elements of society. So AI tools are being used more broadly in conflict, and most alarmingly is concerns around targeting, which is particularly an area of concern due to the dehumanizing nature of AI and targeting, also the likelihood of error and how it really escalates humanitarian harm. We've had US commanders confirm that in the war on Iran, there's been confirmed the use of a variety of advanced AI tools, nothing specific, but that this is used in the processing of data in the conflict. There were reports that emerged that the United States has used Anthropic's large language model Claude to assist with target recommendations in their strikes on Iran. And the tech firm Anthropic, which did hold a $200 million contract with the Pentagon to use its technologies in military applications, then refused to allow its technologies be used in autonomous weapons or mass domestic surveillance. So Anthropic saying that it couldn't be used safely or reliably in those purposes. And so indeed there is precedent for tech companies taking strong positions about how their technology can be used. We also have seen AI target generation systems emerge. Now, for example, this is things such as the Gospel or Lavender that have been reported as used by Israeli Defense Forces in creating kill lists with minimum human oversight. And so the use of these systems accelerates killing and civilian deaths. Lavender reportedly generates ratings from a person's activity, so communication patterns, social media connections, and these are blunt tools and where there can also be false equivalencies. And aside from the humanitarian harm and civilian killing, there is also an acute example of digital dehumanization. So digital dehumanization is the reduction of people to data points based on some specific kind of characteristics. These can also be things like ethnicity, gender, weight, gait. And so this is a real concern across a range of emerging AI uses where there are dangers that I'm also going to focus on for the remainder of my sort of talk now. So digital dehumanization is particularly concerning in cases where we have what's called automated decision making emerging. So this is where AI systems or algorithms make particular decisions, recommendations, or determinations. And this is especially troubling in places where this can lead to harmful effects against people, adverse consequences. So this is relevant across areas like recruitment, banking and loans, healthcare, criminal justice. And in particular, in all of these sort of scenarios, in particular, AI bias is a major risk, which leads then to harms. So in particular, towards already marginalized groups due to the way that AI systems replicate and exacerbate discrimination because of this AI bias that we're aware of. And so this is a real risk that needs to be mitigated, and we really need to think about the particular uses of certain AI systems. So recruitment algorithms, for instance, exhibit gender discrimination, racism, ageism, and so on. And in healthcare, as just one example, digital triage systems that are trained predominantly on middle-class white populations struggle to recognize particular health indicators expressed by different cultural groups. And so there is a real danger where we have algorithms making determinations about people and potentially result in harms to that person without proper human assessment or interrogation, and looking at those particular decisions. And so it's the adoption of AI in these cases that's a real danger that we need to safeguard against. And Australia's current approach to AI governance reveals significant gaps. So the national AI plan that was introduced late last year missed an opportunity to really take into account risks of harms related to AI technologies and implement strong regulatory measures in response. So strong regulatory safeguards, specific sort of prohibitions or obligations, particularly around things like algorithmic bias in AI systems or the use of AI in high-risk settings. There is a new AI Safety Institute, and among their goals is to analyze and test new AI models and applications and support regulators and agencies in responding to emergency AI risks and harms, which is a welcome body, but it doesn't go far enough in adopting clear policy to safeguard against harms from certain applications of AI and really outlining applications for AI that Australia finds to be unacceptable and that should be regulated against. And so I guess the benefit of having advancing technology is really being able to explore how it can be used for good, but also putting in place limits of where it shouldn't be used. And I think Australia has a long way to go to really do this effectively and conscientiously, particularly with how rapidly things are changing. I'll leave it there.